Hello, welcome to Beans Reads. I have a few stories from the Am I the A-hole subreddit today. Let's hope that none of this gets mentioned in my therapy session. This story is from the Am I the A-hole subreddit by throwaway232984-2. Am I the a-hole for being concerned about the damage my son did to my car? I am a mother of two, Vanessa, 25, and Brandon, 22. I'm not married to their father, but they both have a relationship with him. They went to visit him this past weekend for Father's Day and were set to get to my house on Monday. Brandon drove the two of them there and was supposed to drive them back. The car he drives was mine originally. I paid it off and did not ask him to buy it from me on the condition that he is responsible with it. He was only paying for gas and maintenance. This was the first car I have ever been able to pay for upfront without taking out a loan, which carries sentimental value, so it's my car as far as I'm concerned. A few minutes after they left their dad's, I got a call from Vanessa saying that they had gotten into an accident. I asked if the car was damaged, and she told me it was totaled. I was immediately furious because Brandon knew how hard I worked for that car, and I was very clear I expected him to care for it. I asked Vanessa to please put her brother on the phone. Instead, their father came on and explained that they were in the emergency room and that our son was receiving treatment. My ex then started to berate me for being more concerned about the property than about the kids and for getting angry at our son without knowing the situation. But in my defense, I hadn't realized that he was injured. To be clear, Brandon will be fine and the other driver was completely unharmed, but they are still furious with me. I had assumed that if his injuries were serious, that it would have been the first thing that they told me, but that isn't a good enough explanation for them. It's been a few days now, and both kids are still with their father and won't come stay with me. Am I the a-hole? You are the a-hole. It was kind of you to give your son a car free of charge, but why would you give him one that meant so much to you? If you're going to give something to someone to keep, you have to expect that eventually it's going to sustain some type of damage. It is not your car. You gave that car to your son. No matter how much sentimental value it carries to you, it is not yours anymore if you gave it to someone. Aside from that point, when your daughter called you, telling you that they were in an accident, you ask about that same car? Am I missing something? Is the car actually your child instead? That's ridiculous. As a parent, how can your first ask, let alone thought, be anything but checking to see if your kids are okay? It doesn't matter how hard you worked for the car. If you wanted to keep it in mint condition or just keep it as a personal milestone trophy, that's fine. You didn't have to give your son something that was that sentimental to you. Your ex, their father, had every right to be furious with your initial reaction. How in the world do you hear that your car was totaled and think that no one was hurt or not worry at all? No wonder the kids don't want to be with you right now. You're cold. Update. First of all, to be very clear, I do not care about the car more than I care about my children. It was a moment of heightened emotion and I spoke before thinking. I can concede that it was insensitive. To be clear again, my son has a concussion and a few broken ribs, but he will be fine. The car is unsalvageable, and yes, it is insured, but that will not replace the sentimental value. But it's fine. Now, I called my children to apologize and explain that I would have not asked about the car first had I known that they were in the ER. Vanessa admitted that she should have told me that first, but she was very stressed at the time. I was not able to get far into the conversation when their father came in with some choice words for me, and the call ended shortly after. I believe he may be manipulating the kids into not wanting to talk to me or come over, but they are adults and that is their prerogative. My plan is to let it play out. And my verdict hasn't changed. Obviously, what you said was insensitive. You didn't even think of your kids at all. A concussion with broken ribs? And you say he's fine? Oh, yeah, my son's not dead on the side of the road, so all is perfectly well. Are you nuts? The car can be replaced, and it doesn't take away from the fact that you passed a milestone. But your kids' lives are much more important than a hunk of metal. How could you expect your daughter, fresh out of an accident, accident and in the ER, worrying about her brother to inform you of every little detail. It just happened. You asked a question and she answered. Your response is not her fault. Like you said, they're adults and don't have to be around you if they don't want to. Honestly, I don't have much hope that you'll learn from this incident, considering your edit. Moving on to top comments. Static says, "You're the a-hole." So, in order. 1. I got a call from Vanessa saying that they had gotten into an accident. 2. I asked if the car was damaged and she told me that it was totaled. Rather than immediately asking about the car, you should have asked about the kids. 3. I was immediately furious because Brandon knew how hard I worked for that car and I was very clear that I expected him to care for it. So you're already off about the car. Your priorities are skewed. You still haven't asked about the kids. 4. I asked Vanessa to please put her brother on the phone. You still haven't asked about the kids. Make it an assumption that he's 1, okay, and 2, you're at him, so rather than being concerned about his well-being, you just want to yell at him. Good work. Sorry about your car. Oh, and the kid, I guess. Yeah, he got hurt too, but who gives a pig's that? The car you worked so hard to pay for, it's damaged. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. 5. But in my defense, I hadn't realized that he was injured. Because you don't care. You only care about the car. If you cared, you would have asked about the state of your child. You're the a-hole. Exactly, it's just car. My precious one and only car with her. I can't imagine worrying about an inanimate object more than your kids. Another comment by Handsome84 says, "What if your son had been killed and your first question to your daughter was, 'Is the car damaged?' Would you still be asking Reddit if you're the a-hole?" A-hole. Honestly, I'm not sure that it would have been a different story if one of them died in that crash. With how defensive she's been, I doubt that she would have regretted asking about the car first. It's unfortunate, and I hope that wouldn't be the case, but she just seems so cold. Last comment by Solma Reddit user now says, "Well, you really tried to front load so much info to show what a good parent you are. Generous for lending / giving your son this car and how much the car meant to you. Then, upon finding out that they were in an accident, you didn't ask if either of your kids were okay. You asked about the car. Beep all you want, but your first question should always be, 'Are you okay?' Come on, you're the a-hole." Edit to add, your disingenuous title is noted. Why am I so bad to be concerned about the state of the car? You're not. You're an a-hole because you care more about it than your children. Definitely. The title is a good catch. This is not what I was expecting when I saw the title. Our next story is from the r/Am I the A-hole subreddit by Soggy Diva Cup. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend my marriage is falling apart? I, 26F, have been with my husband, 29M, for almost 4.5 years, married for almost 2, and a rule that he has felt strongly about in our relationship since the beginning is that we never talk to our friends about our fights, disagreements, etc. So for the last 4.5 years, major arguments and hurt feelings, etc. have happened, but I bottled it all up, even when I felt it wasn't resolved, and I never told a soul. To my friends, they would think that we have a perfect relationship. The last 4 months have been bad. It's hard to put into words, but I've realized I'm not being appreciated, emotionally understood, and am lacking help. I told him in January I've been really depressed, and he knows, unfortunately, that he is the reason. And even still, I was communicating, trying to repair, trying to fix. And instead of him really hearing and listening to my feelings, we have been getting into more fights. I feel incredibly isolated. I told my new therapist and she said I needed to tell someone, anyone. So I told my friend. Then I told my husband I told my friend because I wanted to be honest. He pretty much went nonverbal, then finally told me that he's really sad and feels that I was disparaging him to my friend, that I broke the rule, and he feels that they can no longer be friends. Which is interesting to me because if my friend won't be friends with you for something that you did, then what makes you think I'll stay? The overall sentiment of the rule I understand, but I don't know if this is normal. I've only been in one other relationship. You are absolutely not the a-hole OP, and you need to leave that sack of crap ASAP. I know that you've been with him for quite a bit and it may seem like a waste, but the true waste is spending even one more year with him. You're only 26, you're mid-20s, you have so much time left to do the things that you want and be with better people who actually support you. I'm glad that you switched therapists, because if you had mentioned this to your old one and they brushed it off, that's a horrendous therapist. In the future, if you decide on another relationship, please make sure that there are no rules. Boundaries are a different thing though, and are usually put in place for the betterment of the relationship and yourselves. I definitely research more about it and also look into books about abuse to see the signs earlier on. Thankfully, you took your therapist's advice and talked to your friend about the situation, because what you're going through isn't normal at all. Top comments. Stupid Sprinkle says, hey, there is a difference between going to a friend for support and trash talking your husband to your friend just because. Leave him, I beg. Like this commenter said, you should be able to talk about your relationship problems with your friends. That's not being disparaging or trash talking him at all. Trash talking would be dogging on his appearance or lying about how he treats you just to have something to complain about. OP responds to a comment thread. I just went to visit my friends and told them all this weekend. They all seemed genuinely concerned for me. He called me every day asking if I vented, and I said no. I am fearful though. He told me once that he would make leaving him hard in a joking way, but I've never forgotten. He's a lawyer too, and I fear he's gonna take both dogs. I am so glad that your friends are concerned for you, because they should be. Being this controlling isn't something to brush over, and you should never be afraid in a relationship. I'm not sure what you could do legally about the dogs if you were to get custody of them. I guess provide any papers that say that the dog is yours. But again, I'm not sure, so you might want to look up the rules and regulations regarding that for wherever you live. OP responds to another comment about his abuse, saying, that's how it always goes. I bring up my feelings nicely. For example, I didn't appreciate that you did this, and it hurt my feelings. Then he responds with, what do you want from me? If I thought an apology would make you happy, then I'd give you one. Real quotes, and so hurtful. Every conversation I bring up about something he did is spun back on my reaction to it. So, did he think guilt-tripping you and turning you into the bad guy was gonna make you happy? Make it make sense, because this creep is so illogical that he could give the Kevin subreddit a run for their money. A comment by Tayan says, him being a lawyer adds an entire new level. He knows what is more likely to seem like an angry partner leaving versus actual abuse. He knew what waiting to document would do for any case you try to bring forth during a divorce. Please keep hold of those messages from him. If it's over an app, he can delete messages to where you can't see them anymore, so take screenshots. Back up your phone to your computer, then back that up to an external hard drive that stays at a friend's place or somewhere else safe that he would not have access to under any circumstances. Make sure the backup has all of your messages and any voicemails you may need. Now that you know it'll probably be needed, start a log of every abusive or manipulative action he takes. Make sure you have dates as well as writing down the closest approximation of time that you can. Be clear in your log if it's an exact time or if you had to approximate on it. In terms of backups, do the same with this as any messages, even if it's you texting it to a friend every night so they can keep it for you. If you are able to safely and legally get any photo, video, or audio evidence, do so and make sure to back it up to every avenue that you can. This last comment is from OP responding to Tayan about how having unfair rules in the relationship is a red flag. So OP says, I felt so alone that I wrote in my notes app about how I was feeling. I stupidly left my phone out and he saw. Then it was a fight. I'm being miserable. I ruminate and stew over old fights because I never got a proper apology and they just keep happening. So not only have I felt like I can't tell people, he has a problem with me literally journaling. Whoa, so not only are your friends off the table, but even writing down how you feel is basically banned? That's so stupid. If he didn't want his precious feelings hurt, then he shouldn't have looked through your notes like an overprotective parent. This next story is from the Am I the A-Hole subreddit by Letica. Am I the a-hole for saying that children should not be left alone in cars at night? My friend and I were walking home after a party. For context, we live in a not-so-good part of town, and it was late at night, I believe around 22:30, and it had been raining. To our surprise on our way home, we find two children alone in the car. I mostly saw this boy, who seemed around 8 years old. Since I know that my conscience wouldn't have let me sleep if I left, I decided to wait for their parents' return. Almost 10 minutes had gone by. Meanwhile, the little boy had locked each door individually and turned off the car. Yes, the keys were in the ignition this whole time. He was clearly afraid of my friend and I, so we decided to distance ourselves a little bit more since he was clearly panicking at that point. After waiting around for a bit, I decided to say in a loud tone, children should not be left alone in cars in a neighborhood full of and drugs, with the intent of someone hearing me and coming to check on their children. That's when his mom shows up and knocks on the child's window, asking him to unlock the door from the inside. I waited, looking at her, waiting for some kind of response. That's when she opened the passenger window and asked if I needed anything. I decided to answer her in a firm but calm voice that children should not be left alone in cars, especially at night. That's when she responded back to me. Since I couldn't understand, I moved closer to the passenger window. She says, if they were afraid, they could just go back home. So I repeated back the same thing, that children should not be left alone at night. During all of this, I only caught a small glimpse of the other child in the car. Since the windows in the back had a darker tint, I basically only saw that 8-year-old boy. The mom uses the argument that her daughter in the car is 14 years old, so I repeat the same thing back. And that's when she closes the window in my face and rolls her eyes. After that, I realized that nothing would change her mind, so I just went on my merry way. With all this said, was I in the wrong? I understand that I could have been nicer with what I said, but I feel like we live in an era where everything seems to be going wrong, so why risk your kids' lives? Okay, I'm not sure where you guys are, but personally, I think that everyone is in the wrong here. The mother for putting her children in that situation, and for OP on how they approached it. Now, OP only really noticed the 8-year-old at first, so I understand if they felt worried, but they should have kept their distance even before noticing that the kid was getting scared when they got closer and hung around. OP could have chatted with their friend quietly until they noticed the parent approaching the car. Now, the mother definitely shouldn't have left the car unlocked in any circumstance. I also grew up in a really rough area, so I know how it feels to be that kid in the car, and when you're that young, it's scary. Even when you grow into a teen, you still feel uneasy. I'm assuming since the car was running that the mother wasn't intending to be that long, but it's still not a great idea to do that with young kids, especially at night. It's a bit confusing that OP doesn't mention where they were parked, because when reading this, I immediately thought of a gas station or a little store, but it could have been in the front of a friend's house or something similar now that I think about it. If the latter was the case, then you're a bit more of an a-hole than the mom. They could have been on their way home and stopped by a friend's to drop something off. I do want to be clear though that the mom is still in the wrong for the unlocked doors, but I'm a bit more lenient with the running cars since it would have been right in front of the place. Since OP didn't say anything about the mother coming from a building, I'd assume that they were all outside. I really wish I had more info, but still, talking to the mother and insisting on repeating yourself isn't gonna get you what you want. Top comments. Glittering Regret 25-5 says, while I agree that kids should not be left alone, you're the a-hole. For one, you were scaring the kids by lurking around the way you did. Then, why did you keep repeating the exact same thing? Super weird behavior. Also, I realized nothing would change her mind. What did you expect from her in the moment? To praise your wise thinking and promise to never do it again? Like, what? Yeah, it's just a weird way to go about it. Were they drunk? I mean, they do mention coming back from a party, so I can understand not being able to make the best decisions in the moment, but how do you not look back at this sober and still think that this was the right way to do things? Another comment by Hey All You People says, everyone sucks here. Parents should not leave their kids alone in a car at night, but you have no idea what's going on. There's another kid in there who's about 14, not just an 8-year-old, old enough to babysit. Doors should have already been locked though. You are the creep the mom probably warned them about, standing there freaking out the kids. You don't know what's going on or what kind of neighborhood it is. In my sketchy neighborhood, someone's always watching even if it looks like no one is. Mom sucks. You also suck for the way that you went about it. Repeating yourself over and over again in what you say is a sketchy neighborhood filled with vagabonds or whatever with someone you don't know, which could lead to a bigger ordeal because of whatever reason, is silly. Once you said your piece the first time, move on. Like I said, what the mom did was super dumb and an a-hole thing to do, but OP didn't help the situation if what they really wanted was to warn the mother. Last comment by Motel the Tailor 1903 says, "Everyone sucks here. The parent shouldn't have left her children alone in a car, especially at night, especially in a seedy part of town. You shouldn't have started yelling about and were downright foolish to directly confront a person who was likely to be unstable and hostile. If you had a genuine concern about the situation, you should have called the police and let them handle it. All you did was endanger yourself. And you probably prompted the obviously bad mother, likely a and or a herself, to take out her embarrassment on the children later." I think this is the comment that I agree with the most. They were both being dumb, and OP definitely scared the 8-year-old and probably freaked the 14-year-old out of it. I will say, in regards to calling the police, we didn't get any races either, so especially right now, I don't know if that would have been helpful. If they were white, it probably wouldn't have gone horribly, but I still don't know if it would have been a good idea. Again, I'm not sure where or what kind of people they are, but in general, please always lock your doors at the very least. This next story is from the r/Am I the A-hole subreddit by hotversion3595. Would I be the a-hole if I no longer give my step-niece presents now that she's 18? She's been indifferent to my husband and I from the beginning. We showed up to her school events, sports, drama, gave her $50 to $100 birthday presents, $150 to $200 Christmas presents, celebrated her wins like getting an A on a test, gave her tickets to see Taylor Swift, occasionally was her chauffeur to take her to events, and will give her $100K for college. She made it clear that we aren't her real family and that she wishes her dad never married my sister-in-law. There was no cheating, by the way. She doesn't want to meet my 5-month-old because my baby isn't related to her. She has also told me that since my parents are rich, she has been to my parents' house, I should have bought her a car for her 16th birthday. My husband says that we should just mail her presents, and now that she's an adult, she's not going to want her stepfamily in her life, so we won't have to see her. He said that it'll be a jerk move to give her half-brother, our nephew, presents and not her as well. Plus, it's not gonna hurt us financially, to be kind. No, I don't think you're the a-hole at all. Your husband is being a bit of a pushover though. Why should you give presents to someone so ungrateful? She doesn't need to bow to you and give you 1,001 thanks, but being so entitled while treating you guys like crap is unacceptable. To me, it wouldn't really matter how old they are. If they basically ignored my existence and were being rude to me, why would I then spend my hard-earned cash on them? I just give a card and leave it at that. That way, I'm still celebrating them and could put the money to better use. Please talk to your husband because as much as he doesn't want to treat them unfairly, it's only unfair if the brother is doing the same thing and still getting gifts. Moving on to the top comments. Bess Kawini says, "Not the a-hole. My husband was born as an uncle. We have 20 plus nieces and nephews just due to the generational craziness on his side of the family. I am a great aunt by marriage and I'm in my early 30s. We have a rule to stop giving gifts at 18. You don't even need to have an excuse of it being a step family, etc. Gifts are not an ongoing and forever obligation." Dang, those are a lot of kids. It makes sense to stop at 18. I'm surprised that you could even still give gifts until 18, honestly. The last comment is by Sharks in Space 1899. He said it'll be a jerk move to give her half-brother, our nephew, presents and not her as well. Does the nephew act like an ungrateful, spoiled little prick about the gifts you give him? Or tell the two of you that you aren't his real family and he wishes his dad hadn't married your sister-in-law? Does he flat out refuse family events that you invite him to or to meet your baby? It's not unfair to punish her for her behavior while rewarding him if that's what his behavior deserves. OP responds to that comment saying, "No, he's 8. Well, then there you go. It's not unfair, and if the husband wants to complain about it, he can do it on his own. You don't have to keep doing it if you don't want to, but if you feel pressured about getting her something, I'd just get a card then. Our next story is from the Am I the A-hole subreddit by Creative Chance 5077. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law no to playing at her wedding if my son isn't included? I, 40s M, am a musician, not like a annoying guy with a guitar at parties or some dude who does open mics. I'm a studio musician who's worked on soundtracks like for Marvel or Harry Potter. My sister-in-law, 30s F, is getting married in a few months. My wife is her bridesmaid and our daughter, 6F, is a flower girl. Originally, my son, 12M, and I were going to stick with each other, but my sister-in-law asked, or more like voluntold me, that she wanted me to play music during the interlude before the wedding and during cocktail hour. Apparently, she had been telling her friends and in-laws about my work and would love it if I played for them. I told her I can't because I don't want to work during my day off. I'd be playing for hours and it can get tiring. Also, I'd be leaving my son alone in that time. He isn't in the wedding party and doesn't have anything to do. He's also been struggling with his mental health and I don't feel comfortable leaving him alone. Well, she didn't take it well because now she's telling these same people that I'm being a lazy just because I won't play during cocktail hour. My in-laws, her parents, are asking me to reconsider because this would mean a lot to her, and it would be easy for her if I just do it as a favor. My wife is sticking up for me at least, but my sister-in-law has been kind of a dick to me since. I may consider skipping the whole thing and just take my son out for the day. Am I the a-hole? Unsurprisingly, you are not the a-hole, OP. If it were me, while I probably wouldn't skip the wedding, I don't see anything wrong with not wanting to work on your day off, especially when it involves being unpaid and leaving your kid alone. Adding to that, the way sister-in-law treated you when you turned her down was terrible. Why is she bad-mouthing you to everyone? Man, these people are real pieces of work. At least your wife is on your side. If you really don't want to go, then it's your choice. But I do hope that you think about the position you're putting your wife in before you make your decision. Good luck, OP. Top comments. Sure Owl 3820 says, not the a-hole, tell your sister-in-law about your charges. I'm pretty sure she'd rather hire a usual wedding band that doesn't charge Hollywood money. If OP wasn't so worried about his son, then I'd definitely recommend telling her your usual rates. Doing that after she volunteered you to perform would even be valid, let alone after she's trash-talked you. Another comment by Whimsical Koala says, right, a reasonable request would be, would you be willing to play a song as we enter the reception? And he still has the right to say no, but demanding that he play the whole time because she's too cheap to pay someone else to do it? Nah. Exactly, requesting a favor isn't a bad thing. It is, however, when requesting turns out to be demanding, even more so without any appreciation or compensation. And the last comment by Thresia S. Rose says, not the a-hole, is this your wife's sister? If so, your wife needs to step up and put her in her place. If it's your brother's fiance, have the conversation with him. I mean, I assumed it was OP's wife's sister, but if it is one of his siblings' partners instead, then he needs to talk to them. Also, OP already said that his wife was standing up for him. If that is her sister, then I'm not sure what else she could do to support him short of dropping out of the wedding as well. By Himjima3. Am I the a-hole? Wife likes to make rules about things when they affect her, but allows the same behavior when it only affects me. Today, I got fed up about it. For context, this is a more broad issue, but I'm narrowing it down to this instance for the sake of brevity. My wife, 25F, and I, 26M, have 4 dogs. My wife likes to request that one of the dogs sleeps in the room when I choose to stay up a bit later. She's been having medical problems that affect her sleep and needs help in the middle of the night, so I've been staying up later often so I'm available when she needs me at odd hours. Last night, our Great Pyrenees was in the bed on my side when I decided to come to bed. She was wrapped up in the blanket, so my side was uncovered. I went to use the bathroom and she woke up in that time and called for my assistance. I helped her to the bathroom when I was finished, then laid down in bed, pulled the covers over, and hopped on my phone. The dog then hopped up into the bed and laid in her spot. I figured it would keep her spot warm, so no big deal. She comes back from the bathroom unassisted, then shoos the dog from the bed. His nails tore about a palm-sized hole in the sheet, which she laminated about before crawling into bed. The following morning, we both woke up and she's starting her routine while I'm still in bed. She then checks the state of the tear, rolls her eyes, and says, from now on, stop letting the dogs in the bed without the covers over it, like I always ask you. Now, mind you, the dog was on my side, no covers when I came to bed. The sheets aren't anything special, they're from Walmart and I chose them. I would not have made a stink about a tear from the dog if it had happened on my side because it's a dog. It happens. Probably more of a sign that he needs his nails trimmed above everything. So I chose to remind her that he was on my side just the same way when I came to bed, so I didn't see an issue. And her tone felt like it was accusatory more at me than the dog. She then throws her hands up and says that every time she tries to communicate something to me, it always ends up like this. I retorted that it typically ends up this way when she makes an accusatory statement followed by a rule that she expects me to follow that I know for a fact she will not. Am I the a-hole? Firstly, this is the guilty doggo. And OP isn't the a-hole. From what they've written, it seems to be a consistent problem. If talking to her is going nowhere, then I'd suggest marriage counseling if you can. She clearly doesn't care about holes in the sheet that much if it's on your side. If she wants the dog in the room but doesn't want them on bare sheets, she could put the covers over your spot before going to bed. However, I do feel like I have to mention that you probably would have saved yourself the headache had you moved the dog from her spot. Top comments. Comfortable Abject 41-6 says, calling people in their hypocrisy is always rough. I'd expect this to either be resolved calmly as the scales are removed from her eyes, or it morphs into some melodrama because the source of it isn't addressed. Maybe a mystery third option, what do I know? Either way, not the a-hole. I hope that they can talk about it and get to the source of the issue when they're both calm. If it keeps building up, there will only be more and more resentment. Helpful Leather 8917 says, definitely not the a-hole. She shouldn't be giving you rules or telling you what to do if those rules don't also apply to you too. You should talk to her about why she's making these rules, and perhaps if you can have better ways to deal with that, apply it to both of you. As rules sounds like a controlling thing, and I hope it's not, but perhaps have a compromise? Definitely have a conversation though. LP responds to that. The crux of it is that she insists the dog was not on my side with the sheets uncovered. Mind you, she was asleep when I entered the room, and the dog followed me. It's been happening more and more lately, and I'm not really sure what to do about it. My perspective of events is consistently dismissed because she saw it differently. I'm really at a loss. So her being asleep when you came into the room and the dog following you out changes the story a bit. She genuinely couldn't have known if the dog was there until you mentioned it. Now, if she denies your perspective like you've said here, saying things like, that doesn't matter, that couldn't have happened, etc., then we have a big problem and you need to start texting these things or recording it in some way so you don't feel like you're losing your mind. That's all for today's stories. Outro time! I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you want to see more of these types of stories, and sub if you want to see more of me. Don't forget to leave a comment down below if you think there's anything that I might have missed. Hope you all have a great day and a good night. Beans out. Bye!